Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
No to pot, at least not for now. Ohio voters turned out in droves last night. A 42% turnout yesterday, huge for an off-year election, too. And those voters crushed the pro-marijuana ballot measure. WLWT News 5 investigative reporter Todd Dykes found some pot supporters actually hoped this would happen, or at least that's what they're saying. Hi, Todd.
That's right, Cherie. The undoing of legalized marijuana may not be about morality, but the word monopoly. Critics say it would have guaranteed hundreds of millions of dollars in pot profits to just a handful of people. Aaron Weaver wants marijuana, especially medical marijuana, legalized as soon as possible.
It should happen. It should happen almost immediately. There is a motivation to do something about marijuana here in Ohio.
But just because Weaver is motivated to see a marijuana marketplace in the Buckeye State doesn't mean he voted for Issue 3.
Business interests shouldn't take the place of an altruistic effort like bringing freedom back to Ohio.
Like a lot of Ohio voters, Weaver saw Issue 3 as a way for a small number of investors to get rich off a plant which grows in the wild. The fact many pro-marijuana advocates said no to 3 is not lost on Bill Foster, a responsible Ohio investor in Hamilton County. Before the vote, I asked Foster what would happen if Issue 3 failed.
We will take our data that we've given from why this issue didn't pass and make some of those changes and do another initiative. If it fails miserably because there's that many people in Ohio against marijuana, maybe we don't take part in it again.
Now, I talked to Bill Foster this afternoon. He's not going anywhere, even though political experts say Issue 3 did fail miserably. At this point, another run in 2016 is possible. Foster said the next approach will be more inclusive. Todd Dykes, WLWT News 5.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
It just never stops. It never seems to stop. It never seems to stop. I don't think it's going to stop for a little while. When is it going to stop? I don't know. I cannot get off the Facebook over the Ohio issue. It just does not seem to be happening. I really try. I've been working at it for a while, trying to put it down, trying to pretend like they're not talking about Ohio. They're just talking about Ohio. It's climbing up my ass like a bad bug. Which side of this do you fall on? And in the long run, does it matter? I say yes, it does matter. I say it matters a lot. There were a lot of people across the nation in many places paying attention to that race for a lot of different reasons. Not all of them the same. Many of those reasons were different, various and sundry, I would call them. But I think the majority of the people that were paying attention to this race were people that thought they might be able to pull this same thing off in their state. That's where I think the energy and focus was, honestly. You know, if you're going to change something that radically, and you're going to ask permission of the people to do it, you should probably do it right, don't you think? Some people argue with anything that frees marijuana 1 inch further up the game, an inch closer to the end of prohibition. An inch is enough. I don't agree. I don't agree because although I'm not one of there's a spectrum of people that are considering themselves advocates in the marijuana industry. And although I am an advocate for the purpose of this show, I'm just a moderator. I mean, I'll give you my opinion, but my opinion doesn't mean anything more than yours. It might be a little more educated, it might be a little more immersed in information, but that's all that it is. My opinion. And your opinion might lie to one side or the other of my opinion by varying distances. And there are a lot of opinions about this particular subject. I'm not one of these guys with the marijuana issue altogether that believes that it's possible I just don't think it can happen. A lot of people think it can, that you can just free the weed, that it's just, grow marijuana like lettuce or like apples or tomatoes. There's a lot of different, basically any garden fruit. Insert any garden fruit here. Because that's ultimately what it should be. I think in the heart of hearts of all people that would like to see marijuana no longer a part of the criminal spectrum in our country's politics or criminal justice system, I think that in the heart of hearts, you would find that most of those people have that same agreeance. This is something that just plainly shouldn't be regulated at all. You don't regulate grapes. You don't regulate lettuce. You don't regulate weed. I mean, it makes sense. It's a plant. It grows. How can you regulate it? If I guess you could make the argument, say for example, because most drugs come from plants. In fact, all of them that we do come from plants. All the illicit drugs come from the raw plants. So you're talking about coca leaves. Now, coca leaves in the United States don't grow naturally. I suppose you could probably get them to grow somewhat if you gussied up the conditions in Florida somewhere, or you gussied up the conditions maybe in California somewhere. You might get coca leaves to grow, but they just don't like it unless they're on a mountaintop with certain kinds of. They like it to be hilly. They like the variation in elevation. They like certain conditions with temperature and humidity that just aren't present here. And I'm just saying it's not an indigenous thing. Marijuana is indigenous almost everywhere. If there was enough water, marijuana would grow in the desert in the plain sand. I'm not kidding. It'll grow literally anywhere. Marijuana is like spiders or snakes. They're on every continent. In every corner of the globe, hemp and cannabis grows wild, including, because cannabis is cannabis is a light relative plant. In other words, it won't fruit. It won't produce any seeds. It won't do anything in its pregnancy stage, so to speak, where it's fertile and productive so it can make other cannabis plants or other hemp plants. It won't do any of that without light. It needs a certain amount of light. And it varies among plants. It's basically the same thing, if you get more than 12 hours of light, it's not going to fruit. If you get less than 12 hours of light, then it's going to start to fruit. But in some places like Alaska, say, for example, where the plant is not, it's growing, it's got to grow in total darkness for a while, and it's got to grow in total light for a while. How's the plant going to do it then? Well, then you've got the autoflowering variety. That's where those things came from, is in those zones. Autoralius is an Alaska, Russia, Chinese-type plant. It grows in those zones where light's all the time or it's dark all the time for a period of time. It's an auto-flowering plant. It doesn't need light to tell it when to flower. All I'm saying in the long run is how do you stop a plant that grows everywhere? You can't. It's always been an unenforceable thing, just like the alcohol thing was an unenforceable thing. And eventually you start to figure this out. But if you're going to create a marketplace, you can't start with a big money grab with a bunch of big corporate politicians greeting for it and also not completely legalizing the plant. It's not being legalized in any way with respect to, there are some things that it's giving tolerance and allowance for. Possession, use, some limited personal growth, which is ambiguous and undefined. And it's always been my position that this Ohio group, the Ohio Rights Group, I take that back. Not Ohio Rights Group. Responsible Ohio. I misspoke. It is an Ohio group that I want to call the Ohio Rights Group. It's not. It's Responsible Ohio. This group, when they sat down and put this together, did it with certain intent. And they did this with the intent. They knew that if they put this up against the other competing, at least one other competing, there are several others that were trying to get there. I think there's only one that's viable right now that I'm aware of. And that's Ohioans to end prohibition. And they had a much more legalized type proposition that they were putting forward to people. It didn't limit these grows to 10. It allowed personal grows at a much healthier rate. You didn't have to have a license for it. The problem with the personal grows is that the licensing may take on multiple layers. You might need a state license. Maybe the legislators know you got to get a license. You can grow. The law says you can grow, but you got to get a license from us now. What if the state doesn't do that, but the county? There's nothing that says the county or the city governments, township governments can't get involved and say, no, we're creating ordinances, and you can't do that in this area. We don't have any area here that you can do that in. We've zoned it out. This is why they have zoning control in cities, so they can control what happens and where. If they don't want it there, they just might have, okay, the only place that's zoned for that is that building right there, and it's already occupied by somebody on the council. They own the building, and they're not going to give it up for that purpose. That's how they do that. I mean, that's what they do. You can't go in and say from the get-go that we're not going to let you have a personal grow, but wait a minute. Actually, here's what they did. If you reel it back a little bit, when Responsible Ohio started this venture, they said, well, here's what we'll do. We'll just do this just for the 10 grows. You can only get to pot at the dispensaries that we're selling to. We're the only ones that have control of the 10 sites. That's what it's going to be, all by itself, medical and recreational. And but that's not what they eventually ended up doing, because when they started circulating a petition with language similar to that, they were getting pushback from people that said, why can't I grow? Why do only you get to grow? So they carrot and stick people along into signing that petition by saying, you can have up to 4 plants. We'll let you do up to 4 plants. But see, if you look at the details, the devil in those details is this. That's all that it says. It doesn't say that the state can't require a license. It doesn't say that the county can't require a license. It doesn't say. All I'm saying is that if you get all these guys piling on licenses, how affordable is it or available is it going to be to grow those 4 plants? And even that's being said, let's say all the restrictions are inside, you're putting light on those plants. Maybe 4 plants is not going to be an effective way to grow given the cost involved with the lights and whatever you're doing for growing. It may be cost inefficient, especially when you can go get it for cheaper from one of those stores. That's the intent, to try and make it as small as possible. But I don't think that's what would have happened. I think people would have said, well, 4 plants isn't enough. I'm just going to grow 6. Nobody cares I'm growing 6. It's only 2 more. Guess what? Those guys are going to jail. They didn't completely really legalize the plant. They just carved out special conditions for certain people and let the rest of them suffer as they will. And I think a lot of people would have done that extra grow thing. A lot of them. They did it here in Michigan. They still do it here in Michigan. A little more, carefully. They're still black market people. But we've nibbled it down to the minimum, haven't we? More coming up next. The Michigan State Police Crime Lab lying over felony pot.
You're getting the full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
It's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Dorr Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at canalock.com. Visit canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dorr Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
So sometime last week or the week before, I'm not sure exactly when, it wasn't too long ago, I was looking through some stories, and there was a Fox 17 online news story. And I'm not sure where Fox 17 is out of. I'm sure that our next guest might be able to help us figure that information out. Welcome back to the Full Melt Show. On the phone with us, Attorney Michael Camoran. Are you there, and can you hear us, Michael?
I can, Steve Green. Thanks for having me on.
I say I'm glad you had a chance. Now, you're getting ready to go do the Planet Green Trees show at 8 o'clock, so I'm sensitive to the fact that you are time-sensitive here, and you're headed over to Armaras, which is are you guys doing this out at Armaras tonight?
We are. Thanks for the shout-out plug.
No, for sure. Anytime. We love to follow what you got going on. Love to hear what you got to say. But you're tied to this story now about where is Fox 17 out of? Because that's where I saw the story. Do you know where this is out of, Fox 17?
You know, it's Ottawa County is the jurisdictions, far west side of the state.
Okay. So this is a jurisdiction in the southwest corner of the state. And what happened out there? You uncovered some stuff about the Michigan State Police and the crime lab and some kind of deception over whether they could charge you as prosecutors could charge these cases as felonies or as what they really probably are, which would be misdemeanors under normal consideration.
I hate to make again return to Planet Green Trees, but it really was we do a thing every week, and Jamie Lowell, our producer, had heard about this terrible story, as we hear every week in both my office or as we all hear through the community of these various raids that take place and different things. But this is one that jumped out at me. He came on the show, he told the story, and my interest of getting involved was what is really a red herring in this case, which is the edible debate, the extraction debate versus usable material and whether you're protected under Section 4. And I had other cases where people have been arrested for the possession of concentrates, and their marijuana bud flower was left with them. I love those cases because it's absolutely ridiculous, But I had a couple of those, but none of them resulted in charging of synthetic THC. And this case did exactly that. But I still initially got involved in the interest of the debate over the Carruthers case. Now,
okay, so wait a minute. So what you're telling me is, just to clarify for the audience, they're taking medibles or in some cases concentrates, and rather than charging them as extracts, marijuana extracts, which is what they are in both forms, in almost every case, they're charging this under the synthetic code of the law, which is more severe. They're saying it's synthetic version of THC rather than an extract of the whole plant.
Correct. Well, it's a little bit more sadistic than that. You see, once after the Carruthers case, the perception amongst law enforcement that if it's not plant material, it's illegal. This is a false conception. But unfortunately, if law enforcement finds people with concentrates, they are arresting. Now, oftentimes, most of the time, it's still always the prosecutor's decision of what charges to bring. And they've been reporting these, and they've always reported these. And I'll give an example of the forensic scientist in our case who's been on the lab for 25 years, the first 23 years of his life. If he gets a hash, concentrate, wax, oil, whatever sent to him, they report it as THC Schedule 1, but the prosecutors charge it as marijuana. Okay, that's how it goes. Now, if they receive plant material, they'll report it as marijuana Schedule 1 THC. Okay, the prosecutor still charges marijuana. But what happened here is that after the Carruthers case, which again is a case about usable marijuana and non-usable marijuana, because Carruthers, in the opinion itself, said these marijuana brownies. There's no debate that this was marijuana brownies. Carruthers was not protected by, the brownies were not within the definition of usable material of marijuana, but he had a Section 8 defense. Nobody was saying it was more of a weight issue. Anyways, what the lab did after Carruthers, again, not a legal basis to do so, is that they began to report these substances as origin unknown. Now, what does that mean? That means that nothing had changed in science. There's no new atom, molecule, something in the environment that's changed. It's the same machinery, the same lab people, and they're testing the same substances. And they've been doing it for, in this one instance, 23 years by our forensic scientists. Now, nothing's changed, but they're reporting that they now all of a sudden don't know where the origin is. What does that say for the validity of all the other tests that came before it? Because it's all the same, but all of a sudden they're now admitting that they don't know what the origin was, yet before they reported as either marijuana or THC. Now, how did this come about? I'm curious too. I know that Carruthers had something to do with it, so we did a Freedom of Information Act for all the communications between the lab and the prosecuting attorney's office, and we uncovered this unbelievable plethora of a crime factory. And what we found was that this didn't come about by accident. It certainly didn't come about by science, and it certainly didn't come about by the contemplation amongst forensic scientists testing this new protocol and putting it up to the standard that's required for the admission of evidence, which is that it's accepted within the scientific community. Instead, a person by the name of Ken Stecker, who is the director of traffic and safety at PAM, the Prosecuting Attorneys Association of Michigan. Who's that? It's a nonprofit group that helps advise and counsels other prosecutors. No requirement to be involved. One could call it a message board. But for some reason, he has direct access to the pristine, authentic, validated laboratory. And he all of a sudden is offering his opinion on the concept of what are they going to do about how they're going to report these substances. And in the conversation amongst all the forensic scientists, a very interesting debate takes place. And they're trying to print the basic idea of the emails is that the director of the lab is trying to come up with some uniformity of how they all of a sudden are going to start reporting this. And they claim that Ken Stecker will be the consultant on this moving forward. And Ken Stecker says in an email, my opinion is that all THC is Schedule 1. No, it is not. In fact, the law is completely different and forensic science is completely different. It goes like this. All THC is marijuana unless the lab can prove that it came from an unnatural source other than the marijuana plant. What the lab did here is did neither. It didn't report it as marijuana. It didn't report it as THC. It reported that they don't know what it is, which raises the first question is how does the government intend to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this is synthetic marijuana when they don't know where it came from? That's one that I can't get over. That is a conundrum of catastrophic proportion that is you can't wrap your brain around. Secondly, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say before they were calling it marijuana after they got a report back from the lab that it said it was THC, correct? They were calling it THC, and then they were reported out as marijuana, even though the lab report said THC. Is that what they were doing formerly?
Correct.
And now the new version is they're rather than reporting it as THC, they're reporting it as a synthetic substance source unknown.
They're reporting it as THC origin unknown, and the uniqueness of this case is that had they know that it's marijuana. This is the point, and you see within because these emails are unbelievable. You know why? You see out there on the ether. I love science. I do love science because science is the truth. And in these emails, you see the objections of the scientists that say things like this. We are the scientists. We report the science. If the prosecutors want to charge, that's on them. Another one says, there's only two ways to report this. It's either marijuana or THC. There's no third choice. Why would we ever do this? Then they go on to say, we know that it is from marijuana. You know why? Because there's never been a raid that uncovered a synthetic, pure THC-making lab. And let me give you an example. Like, for example, Marinol is made from some other plants other than marijuana. It's a Schedule 3, ironically. but it comes from, like moss and fungus that's synthesized, okay? That is synthetic THC or spice that comes from a chemical makeup, K2 or whatever it is. Though that's synthesized. But if it comes from the marijuana, and the lab...
But the synthesis of this chemical requires a laboratory grade process, correct? It requires, a clean room. It requires certain kinds of equipment that you're saying so far in police history they haven't uncovered.
The definition of synthetic is that it is made from a source, the ultimate end product is made from a source that does not originate from the source. Marijuana has THC. People extract that THC from the marijuana plant where it exists into a concentrated form. Marinol is made from two plants that do not have THC in it. It is taking them and doing something to them in science, whatever the formula is, and by doing that, it produces pure THC. There is no other cannabinoids within it. Now, the point that I'm trying to make is that in order to prove that it is synthetic THC, they have to prove that it was synthetically made. The lab report says we don't know where, so they can't do that. Secondly, the lab within its own internal communication says we know that there's no labs out there that are creating this. There's never been a rate ever. And further, from our own data, we see other cannabinoids in the substance. So it means not just that someone is synthesizing THC, which is an impossibility, but they're also synthesizing CBD, which nobody knows how to do. No one knows where that comes from in the plant. And they're going to be synthesizing both of these things, which is a double absurdity. So to report it out as anything other than marijuana is unjust. And they go on to say, and this is why this is so awful. They go on to say that the objecting scientists, that if we do this, people are going to be wrongfully convicted of felonies. And this is going to create a black eye on the Michigan State lab. In fact, somebody else says, it's one of the other complaints is that, well, if we don't report it as THC, report it as marijuana, we're not going to have probable cause to arrest. Right, because that's the law. Yet the influence that's taking place in these emails is pressuring the labs to report otherwise. Why? Let's talk about why, if it matters. But
it clearly matters.
It is, and I'm glad you asked or want to know, because my dear friend Jeff Frazier, that's been working on this case, attorney extraordinaire, they had this Wayne County seminar for lawyers and whoever wants to attend, and I presented for medical marijuana a couple weeks ago, but the Michigan State Police Lab was there. Jeff was present, and Mushad, the director of the program, stated that 40% of the lab testing that they do is for marijuana. That equates to $225 million. He also said that the reason why the lab was so far behind in the testing of the rape kits, when they found 11,000 in Detroit that were untested, and it still took them 6 years to get through any of them, was because they spent 40% of the time testing marijuana. I know your listeners are aware of this, but it's worth stating again. The number one conviction in the state of Michigan is prostitution. The number two is marijuana. Rape, murder, armed robbery, burglary are 25% conviction rates or less.
Those are horrible statistics.
Money.
Yeah.
Big money. I mean, when you hear $24 million in forfeiture proceeds, and I say that the police are awesome because they're able to collect it, they don't have to say where they got it from. But then you think about $225 million in lab testing. That's a different ballgame.
Yeah, it is. It's craziness. What do you think is going to come of this? I mean, where is this going in court?
You know what else? Just to kind of throw in your pipe and smoke it there.
Okay.
And this is a tragedy also. And I say this with pain in my heart to even have to talk about how awful this is. But we recently learned, this is a story that was picked up in the newspaper, but we have reason to believe that that story out of Kent County that involved the police, the police officers that were caught up in the scandal of making brownies for their cancer patients, and they were charged. And you may remember the most awful story. No lawyer ever wants to say. I know my friend Matt Newberg, who was a lawyer. I talked to him a little bit. It is one of the officers killed himself.
Right. I remember the story well. We reported on it.
Correct. Do you know what? He was charged, we understand, with synthetic THC with the brownies. Now,
wow.
This is a result of this scandal. That's how far this, I think, is going to go. And it shows a concerted effort, I think, if there's anything, from the top down. The lab does not get influenced unless it's coming from an authoritative figure. I don't need to say anybody's name, but I don't know any other way to do it.
I think it's a lot of BS. There's a lot of BS in there.
I would say so.
Bill Schuette. Don't say Bill Schuette. I'll say it. It's Bill Schuette.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it really is tragic. I mean, I talked to Max several times today. You know, I mean, it was funny. A couple anecdotal parts about the case. I mean, number one is this is an anecdotal. They took his kid. I mean, this has been going on. There's a whole other story on another day for the robbery of people's kids at Bethany Christian Services. I mean, at one point they recommended that Max divorce his wife and he would be a better parent as a single parent. This is Bethany Christian Services. It is such a scandal out there.
Well, you saw the story about them taking the lady's kid away for drinking marijuana tea.
Yep.
I mean, you see these stories every couple of weeks. You see another story. I'm sure it happens more often than that, but the stories crop up twice a month or so.
It is outrageous. It's so. But the other things that are really kind of shocking is that I don't know, it's cut me off if I'm going on too long, but the prosecutor has already admitted that they know that it's marijuana. I'm on record with them when I'm trying to get an independent testing.
Oh, see. Wow.
And they admitted they know it's marijuana. I mean, it's comical. And they just added a count of possession of marijuana. So now he's officially charged with possession of marijuana or the alternative synthetic THC, and the lab report says they can't prove either one.
Oh, geez.
It is,
Michael. We're about to head into break. I have to thank you. I know you got to get ready to go to your own show. The Planet Green Trees show is about to start. At what is it? What's the website? Is it planetgreentrees.com? What is it?
It is www.planetgreentrees.com. It's the show. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to start at 8. We do a slow warm up at 7:30. It's ready to go. So I'm going to call and find out. But yes, we'll be talking. We are also going to talk about veterans. And the name of the show tonight is honoring our U.S. veterans because, as we know, many the PTS diagnosis has been effectuated by.
Michael, we got to run. I thank you for being on the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Getting the full melt.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade. You got this.
At book club, they were asking me what you're doing now, Janice.
Blogging. Your blog is just pictures of you in a mirror.
It's called a fashion blog, Todd. Well, I've been helping people save money with Progressive's discounts. Flo, can you get Janice a job?
You should have stuck to softball. I was so much better at softball than Janice did.
Where's your wife, Todd?
Vacation.
Discounts like homeowners, multi-policy. I got a discount on this ham.
I've got the meat sweats. It's good ham, Diane.
Paperless discounts. Give it a rest, Flo.
Yeah, Flo, give it a rest.
Don't miss the first ever cannabis competition this year as the prize contest moves from Amsterdam to Jamaica. That's right, it's all Jamaican fun now with the Big Cup competition in Negril this November. Get your best travel accommodations now at JamaicaPot.com. Pack your beach bong and swimsuit and party down at the warm sandy beaches of Negril, Jamaica for the first ever big cannabis event this year. Do it in style or come have fun on a budget. Best travel prices now at JamaicaPot.com. That's JamaicaPot.com.
We ask people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be downtimes.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the Allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show. You're live at the petpain.com studios here Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day of the week.
Black ocean, cold and dark. I am the hungry.
We're talking about cannabis, hemp, medical marijuana. That's what we talk about on this program. Got some tickets to give away at the end of the program. If you're interested, write this number down. It's toll-free, 844-420-TALK. An interesting story today about higher education. The world's first marijuana-funded college scholarship is here, according to Time magazine. This reported today on Time.com. In this week's election in Pueblo County, Colorado, voters were asked to weigh in on a number of proposals, with the exception of two issues, according to the Pueblo chieftain. Quote, all of them have something to do with marijuana, end quote. Well, surprise, surprise. On one question, voters approved a 5% excise tax on marijuana growers, which is expected to raise $3.5 million annually by 2020. Half of that money will pay for scholarships for local students who attend either of the two counties' public colleges. In other words, proceeds from the marijuana sales will be used to fund college scholarships. That's never happened before, and it's a concept that probably would have been just laughed off as a total joke only a few short years ago. Quote, this is the first time you have marijuana tax money being used directly for scholarships, and that's precisely remarkable. It said pretty remarkable. County planners say that perhaps 400 students will be awarded $1,000 each year thanks to pot tax scholarships. But the exact payout and number of recipients will vary based on the number of applicants. That's $1,000 a year. And I think that's amazing. It's worth noting that while this is the first pot money to be used for scholarships, it's hardly the only way marijuana taxes are supporting education. One of the arguments to make recreational legal in the first place is that sales would be used and heavily taxed, and that those taxes would be helping to fund children's educations. For instance, during the first 5 months in 2015, Colorado took in $13.6 million in pot taxes that are directly earmarked for school construction projects. An analysis predicts $30 million to $40 million by year's end. I mean, that's an amazing thing to say. You know, when I went to school, when I went to college, I had to do a couple of things. I mean, I certainly couldn't fund it on my own, so I was dependent upon something which was much more readily available. It's been really beaten back by Congress, especially in recent years. So getting a hold of a Pell Grant, which was, really pittance, it's just a little tiny splash in the bottom of the bucket. I mean, it's just getting the bottom of the bucket wet for the rest of whatever's got to fill in there if you're going to, continue to go to school and pay for it. Because you're not going to if you don't pay for it. They don't let you get the credits unless you pay for them. They won't let you attend unless you pay for those credits. And then you got to pay for the books, and then, you got the expense of wherever you're living. It wasn't cheap. So I had to I had to get a student loan, a federal student loan. Now, mind you, this was, a long time ago. This is, 1992? So the amount of the cost of a college education has increased, I think, 30 times by now, since 1992. It's gone up considerably. And you know what? When I was paying for it then, I thought it was like, wow, it's gone up that much since last year. The rising price of college educations is astronomical. And I think they got to do something really strong to deal with that. Because here's what's happening. If you go look at the reason that colleges are raising all this money, what they're doing with that money is rather than in putting it in endowments and putting it in places where higher education can actually grow and building laboratories and building, research institutes and stuff like that. Rather than doing that, these colleges are building lavish student dorms so they can attract those people in to pay those tuitions. So they can go in there and raise those monies, those dollars, through federal student loans and other places, mom and dad's pocketbooks, whatever savings have been acquired throughout your lifetime going towards college, maybe some bar mitzvah money, something like that. The attraction towards college education nowadays is less towards what the curriculum offers and what kind of job it may provide once you get out of school. Now they're offering courses on, it's almost like it's all electives. There's no requirements. Just come and take the courses you want. And, we'll give you a degree that says you don't know anything and that nobody will hire you after you get. But we're going to charge you a lot of money because, right there in the student dorm, right out there as you're walking from class to class, you can jump in the pool along the way. Look, there's a rock wall over there. It's almost like you're at an airport. So, they got everything you want there. There's free Starbucks coffee over there. There's a TV lounge. It's certainly not what college was when I was going. And I'm not saying, in my day, I'm not doing that. But I'm just saying, what is the purpose of going to college? Is it so that you can squeeze a bunch of money out of a bunch of young kids and then not give them anything that they can go get a job with later? Is that the purpose? Because if that's the purpose, you're doing an awesome job. How about giving them some money along the way to help pay for this lavish babysitting job? Because that's really what it is that you're doing now. It's happening it's really sad to see this happening in America. You shouldn't be picking a college based on how lavish and comfy and cozy it is. You got the instant lifestyles of the rich and famous until you get kicked out of the dorm. Really, these dorms are crazy now. Out of control. They aren't conducive of a kid that's trying to make his dollars stretch or trying to learn anything. They're conducive of a greedy school wanting as many kids to sign up for their programs as possible, save the education, because that means nothing. It's getting to the point where getting a college education isn't going to get you anything anyways, but at least for the guys that go, that are amassing these student loans that the federal government's making $6 billion a year on, that's the profiteering happening on these student loans. You think that some of them might be able to get some relief. $1,000 a year helps to stretch that budget a lot better, doesn't it? In fact, I would say that $1,000 represents more than the Pell Grant you could get on any scale or level today. I think a Pell Grant's good for, I don't know, what is it, $200 or $400, $500, I don't know, whatever it is. It isn't very much, whatever it is, if it even exists anymore. I don't even know if you can still get a federal student Pell Grant. It used to be available to almost every single student that qualified because they were low income. I think they've moved the bar so low and they've made the fund so small that a few people get it and then good luck. It doesn't matter anyways. It's not that much money. That $1,000 is more than the Pell Grant. So it's nice to see some students get some money out of these. This, just like Ohio was, everybody's looking at Ohio. We've been talking about that for a few days, looking there to see what they might do in other states. I think this will be successful in getting other people in other states to use this as a magic wand to get cannabis reform laws done. I think that's what it will mean. In the long run, that's, I think, what it'll turn out to be. Police are admitting it. So says the Washington Post. Marijuana is literally the least of the nation's drug worries, so have announced the police. Woo, 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 woo. Meep, 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 meep. This is according to a story today, I guess, as I said, in the Washington Post. Dateline, November 5th. America's cops overwhelmingly do not see marijuana as a major threat to their communities, according to results of a survey released this week as a part of the Drug Enforcement Administration's 2015 National Drug Threat Assessment Summary. The DEA asked a nationally representative sample of over 1,000 law enforcement agencies what they saw as their biggest drug threats. Pay attention to this. Marijuana came in at the bottom of that list, named by only 6% of the survey respondents. The share of law enforcement agencies naming pot has been declining steadily since the mid-2000s, even as states have moved to legalize medical and recreational marijuana during that time period. By contrast, nearly three-quarters of police departments named heroin and meth as their top drug threats this year. The perceived threat of heroin has more than quadrupled since 2007, according to that survey. And after rising sharply from 2007 to 2013, the threat posed by prescription painkillers has subsided considerably in the past 2 years. The findings indicate a statement by law enforcement as of a fact that drug policy experts and researchers have known for a long time. Compared to other recreational substances, including alcohol, I said including alcohol, marijuana doesn't cause that much harm. This is the police. It's probably even safer than many people think. This is the police. And whether you're worried about potential harms to individuals or communities, marijuana is very low on the list of recreational substances. This is the police. The state and local police also say that the state and local police also say that marijuana is not a big driver of crime. Only 6% said that marijuana is the most serious drivers of violent crime in their communities in 2015, and 5% said it was the biggest contributor to property crime. This contradicts the arguments made by some high-ranking law enforcement officers recently that marijuana is somehow driving an increase in murders this year. A ridiculous notion. Despite this shift in thinking, arrests for marijuana possession continue unabated. Cops keep arresting people for marijuana possession. This might be a simple question of low-hanging fruit. I use that phrase all the time because that's exactly what it is. Marijuana is by far the most widely used illegal drug, and more users means more potential arrestees. But these arrests have serious consequences for the people caught up in them, and they divert precious police time and resources away from more serious crimes like rape and murder, as Michael Camorn just articulated in the segment previous to this. There's a little bit more on this story, and I'll finish this story up here after we get out of the break here. We're going to get in and out of the break. We'll finish up this story, and then I've got tickets to the Great Lakes Cannabis Expo at Burt's Warehouse Complex in downtown Detroit with $1,000 cash prize giveaways. You want to go there? I know you do.
You're getting the full melt.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pets.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Where
you can subscribe to the podcast really quickly on iTunes. Find the iTunes link at thefullmelt.com. Click and subscribe. It's really easy. I'm really excited to present these guys happening out at Burt's Warehouse Complex. It's tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 6th, 7th, and 8th of November. Great Lakes Canada Expo. Should be a good time. A lot of people out there. They got some great cash giveaways. I think it's cool that you could walk into a place like that and just be donned on $1,000. Just boom. They've got all the clocks, bells, gongs, and whistles. Get out to the Great Lakes Canada Expo. If you want tickets to it, I got some promo tickets to give away right now. First couple callers, I got 2 tickets for each caller. It's the Cadillac No Smell Bag phone lines, 1-844-420-8255. 844-420-8255. I'll say it one more time. 844-420-TALK. Really easy. So state and local police also say that marijuana is not a big driver of crime. Only 6% said that marijuana was the most serious driver of violent crime in their communities in 2015. 5% saying it was the biggest contributor to property crime. It's contradicting arguments made by some high-ranking law enforcement officers recently that marijuana is somehow driving an increase in murders this year. Despite this shift in thinking, arrests for marijuana possession continue unabated. The cops keep arresting people for marijuana possession. Might be a simple question of low-hanging fruit, which I talked about. Marijuana is by far the most widely used illegal drug, and more users means more potential arrestees. But these arrestees have serious consequences for the people caught up in them, and they divert precious police resources, and they don't end up solving things like rapes and murders. Michael Camorra just said 25% conviction rate on those charges. It's like a 90% conviction rate for all drug crimes. And 80 to 90% of the drug crimes that they arrest are marijuana crimes. Beyond that, the Department of Justice has continued to aggressively prosecute marijuana cases, even in places like California, where some of the plant use is illegal. This led to the federal judge giving a scathing rebuke to the department last month, accusing it of openly defying congressional efforts to put an end to these raids. And he's right. The DEA also continues to pump millions of dollars. Oops, here we go. Hey, welcome to the Full Melt Show. Hello.
Hello.
Who's this?
This is DB from up in Northeast Michigan, Alpena.
DB, are you winning some tickets? Are you going to come down to the Great Lakes Canada Expo? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
So I'll give you some tickets. I'll put your name on the will call list, so you could come down any or all days, I guess, and they'll let you into the expo. Where are you up at now, DB?
I'm up in Alpena.
Alpena, that's quite some distance away.
Yeah. We come down every week, though.
You do come down every week. I was going to say that's a long trip to run for the Canada Expo, but I suppose, thinking about it, because I used to live in just Houghton Lake. For me, the Houghton Lake was like, the wild north. That was back in the 80s, though. And so when I remember that up that way, I couldn't find. Actually, I lived in Gaylord for a while. There's even more of the wild north. Blinker light town at that point in time was a blinker light town in Gaylord, and I lived right. The blinker light was in my window at night. But I remember that I couldn't find cannabis up there in the 80s. It was a near impossibility being from the South and coming up there to live in the North just to work at a local radio station. I remember just pressing my face against the cold window, yelling, "Weed! Where's the weed?" So I imagine if I wanted to in today's day and age, participate in an exposition, because you guys don't get many expositions up that way, anywhere close to you, do you?
Everything we go for is down there.
Right, and that's what I mean. I looked forward to the chance that I had to... Go ahead.
Nothingness.
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah.
It's the wide open tundra, especially in the wintertime.
Except for the closet.
Right. Yeah, but see, that's what I mean. In order for me to, I would have to come downstate and buy like a half ounce of brickweed and drag it back up north and hope I could make it stretch until the next time I came back down. Is that this weekend? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes, the Great Lakes Canna Expo is tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, we're going down. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, we're heading.
So, DB, you've got me on Facebook, right?
Yep, I sure do.
Give me your full name on Facebook. Give me a PM on Facebook, and I'll turn all that information into the people over there at the Canna Expo. You'll be on the will call list.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Did you want to contribute onto this thing on the cops at all we're talking about? Have you been listening?
The cops?
Yeah, with the DEA's. We're talking about the DEA, the police admitting that pot's not very dangerous, and we don't really care about it on the streets.
Pot isn't very dangerous, but I mean it's about as dangerous as aspirin. I mean, if you get too much, you just got to take a nap.
Right. Well, aspirin is actually more dangerous than marijuana. I've seen it, and there's a meme that says marijuana is more dangerous or less dangerous than aspirin.
That's right.
Because you could actually die from aspirin. It'll make your stomach bleed. It'll cause other problems.
Massive.
Yeah, look, even just taking an aspirin a day or something for people like that take the low. It says right on there, low dose of aspirin will make your stomach bleed.
You want to fix your stomach and indigestion problems, start juicing raw cannabis.
Well, there you go. Dietary cannabis is a wonderful and fun thing. It's a subject we haven't talked about much on this program, but I'd love to delve into it one day. We should get Dr. William Courtney on. You know who Dr. William Courtney is?
Yeah, that would be nice.
We should get him on talking about, the wheel of fortune of cannabinoids in dietary cannabis, because he's an expert on it, and he knows exactly what that stuff does. And I got to get him to admit, because most people don't understand, because I learned this a long time ago in the juicing. You know when you go to those places where it says raw juice bar? You ever seen that raw juice bar?
Sure have.
And there's a reason that it's a raw juice bar. Raw juices haven't been frozen, and they haven't been heated. They haven't been pasteurized. And it makes them susceptible to things like E. coli or other contaminants that could be on the skin of the fruit or whatever. So you could get sick from it if you didn't do it right. If you didn't clean it properly before you juiced it, there's some danger present. But the reason it's raw is because all the things that are really essential life-giving forces, all the lovely proteins and enzymes that are in these food products, mostly enzymes, enzymes are proteins, are lost when you freeze or heat them. And so raw cannabis is the way to go if you want the full effect of what you're trying to get out of it. But if you freeze it or if you pasteurize it, it's not a good way to go. Juice it fresh.
Right, but there are a few fruits that when they're right before they're frozen, they're at peak taste and antioxidant, I think.
Correct, but what I'm saying is the enzymes, the things that are life-giving, the things that give you the most benefit out of fruits and vegetables are completely laid to waste if you freeze it or if you pasteurize it, if you heat it above boiling.
Right, the cell structure breaks down.
Right, all the enzymes go away. All the stuff that when you juice raw vegetables or fruits, when you juice them and you drink them and you get that energy kick and you feel great, all that stuff is gone. You still get the sugar and you still get the, if there's any fiber in there, and you still get some other vitamins and stuff, but you don't get the enzymes, and that's the thing that's the most beneficial out of the whole plant.
I swear the only time to be in the garden is barefooted.
Listen, I thank you for calling. Don't forget to text me. Give me the private message so I can get your tickets down at the Canna Expo.
Thank you. I will.
My pleasure. Thanks for
Have
calling.
a good night.
All right, you too. To finish up this story real quick, because we just got a couple of minutes left on the air, DEA also continues to pump millions of dollars into its endless campaign to eradicate marijuana plants in the United States, funding expensive weeding operations that spend, in some cases, $60 or more to uproot a single plant. Can you believe that? Look, I could stand outside and weed 100 plants, and it wouldn't cost you $60. $60 a plant to take it up, DEA, you suckling pigs. The DEA's latest drug threat assessment makes it an implicit argument for smarter policing. If marijuana is of little concern while heroin and meth are a big worry, then devote less time and resources to the former and more time to the latter. It's a simple solution. The report notes that over 46,000 people died from drug overdoses in 2013. What it doesn't mention is that not a single one of those overdoses was caused by marijuana. And there you have it. Until next time, tomorrow, Friday, our last day on the air this week, we'll see you here live at PetPain.com studios for another edition of The Full Melt Show. Until then, I'm Steve Green. Have a great night.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.